Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I know it has been quite a few days since I have been on here, getting everything ready for Hurricane Lane, and having a new grandbaby born will make for a busy week. So now that the new grandbaby is born and Hurricane Lane has left and did not even make a pit stop in Oahu, yay! It's back to the normal grind of the work day, and it is Monday, and of course mine started like crap, but I'm going to end it on a positive note, and that's me getting my video done today. So jumping right in, I would love to discuss with you guys transgenders and the military. It's just been a topic of discussion that has kind of, it's been like a roller coaster. Sometimes it's a high pointed conversation, and sometimes it's just something that most people aren't thinking about. But I don't think I've really gone more than a couple days without seeing some reference about the transgender movement and discrimination. And since it's such a long-winded subject, you can take it so many different directions. I kind of want to just leave it simple and just leave it at the military. So I have a formal liberal. I still consider myself very open-minded. I'm more moderate leaning. I don't really have a specific side, just believe what I believe, and wherever it falls, that's where it falls. But for the most part, I have had a little change of heart when it comes to certain things that I used to be very, very open-minded about. And I still consider myself open-minded. I actually consider myself more open-minded now than before, because I was so concrete in my beliefs that the fact that I was able to see a different side of it shows that I'm still willing to learn. And just through the things that I've learned over the years, I've come to certain conclusions about certain things. And in this case, it would be transgenders in the military. And you tell me what you think when I'm done. So let me back it up for you just a little bit. I was born in Miami, but I was raised in Beaufort, South Carolina. For those who may not know, Beaufort is the home of the Parris Island Recruit Depot, and they train men and women to become United States Marines. Hoorah! So, growing up in a military town, you get to hear plenty of military stories. If you know an MP, then you have some great stories, because those guys, they see everything that happens on the depot. And it's kind of what has my opinion, what it is on the subject of transgenders in the military. So, I know some of you are going to just hate what I'm about to say, but bear in mind, give me a chance to explain, and like I said, let's take it to the comments and see what kind of conversation we can make of this. So, growing up in a military town, you hear a lot of stuff. And one of the biggest things that we hear all the time in Beaufort is when a recruit goes rogue. And it happens a little bit more often than you would think. Some people just can't handle, like, they either get to Parris Island and it's nothing like they were expecting and they just can't handle, or they mentally couldn't handle and they were mentally broken. Like, some people leave Parris Island not the same as when they showed up, and not in a good way. There have been stories that I was told about recruits getting so badly mentally effed that they end up in the brig because they've done something stupid to try to get out of their contract. Some people, they just don't know they're not ready until they put themselves in a position, and then they're broken, or they're left a little stunned that they couldn't handle it. And just depending on what you do to get out of the situation depends on what will happen to you legally. And a lot of the people who have tried to leave before their training is over end up in the brig until at some point they're either deemed not capable of continuing, or whatever happens. Like most of these stories, you never really hear the final outcome. You just hear all the crazy. And I've heard stories of people in the brig throwing feces at officers, smearing it all over their walls. In some cases, they're doing it because they're mentally broken. In other cases, they're just trying to convince you that they're that mentally broken that they just can't continue with the training. So just knowing those stories, hearing of recruits jumping in the marsh, and if they don't drown, they get rescued and sent to the brig, until they figure out their mental state of mind and if they are able to continue, if they need to be punished, whatever the case may be. So there have been plenty of times that living in Beaufort, we have heard of recruits getting stuck in the fluff mud, and if it's at low tide, congratulations, you have a chance of being saved. But sometimes these guys will get out there and get stuck, and it'll get high tide, and I believe we've had a couple of fatalities from young recruits not wanting no part of anything else Parris Island has to offer. They don't want no part of it, and they're willing to do anything to not have to continue with the training and being a part of the Marine Corps. So when I think about those things, those stories, it has to make you wonder, is the military the right place for a young possible transgender who really is still trying to make sense of the world? Because from the beginning of time until 18, they have felt we'll just go with a man wanting to be a woman, okay? They've known it since they were a little kid. They just feel it in their core. But there's things you have to do to make these things happen. You can't just look in the mirror and go, I feel like a woman, so I'm a woman. If you want people to see you and perceive you as a woman, you have to kind of look the part in order to have people look at you the way you feel that they should be looking at you. And when you're a man trying to be a woman and you're going through that transition, people can tell. I mean, it's not like you were born looking like a girl, but you just happen to have a penis. No, most boys who are born boys, they look like boys and generally have boy characteristics. Yes, we have some boys that have a more feminine look to them. Absolutely, I'm not taking away from those people at all. But I am saying, for the most part, when you're born a certain gender, you kind of tend to look like that gender. And in order to not look like that gender anymore, you have to do things to yourself in order for you to look the way you feel. Surgery, hormones, therapy, all of those things you have to go through in order to go through a transition. So my thinking, my reasoning in not allowing for transgenders to join the military almost seems like a no-brainer. And I don't mean in terms of ever. Okay, it's not like I'm saying, oh, if you're transgender, then you shouldn't be able to join the military. No, I just think you need to have different requirements in order to join the military. Because, as I've already previously stated, the military is there to break you down and rebuild you. They tear down the man, they tear down the woman, and in its place, they rebuild a soldier, okay? they're not worried about what gender you are, okay? They're worried about having soldiers and people that are willing and able to do the job of defending our country. And if you're in the middle of a transition, how are you a soldier? How are you fulfilling your duties while still in the process of figuring out who you are? As far as the military is concerned, they want a soldier. As long as you're a soldier, then that's what they need. But if you're going in at 18 and you feel like you're a girl, but you don't look like a girl, and now you want to be in the military, but you want to be in the military as a girl and not as a guy, and now the military not only has to pay for that, but now they have to wait through all of these progressions until you are who you feel you are, and you can be 100% of who you want to be, and you can be that soldier that you were trained to be, because now you have finally fulfilled your desire to be this different person. That's just too much stuff, honey, going on for you to be all up in the military trying to learn this, that, and the other thing, and deal with the social part of being in the military with other soldiers. Where is that good for your mental health to put yourself in that position when you're so vulnerable to your own situation? I personally feel like some of these people who are transgender and wanting to join the military have no real expectation of what the military is, and think it's just a good, easy way to have the government pay for their surgery. Now, I know it's not everybody. I'm not saying everybody. I'm just saying it just seems a little weird for people who are transgender and young. I mean, people join the military at 18, guys. I mean, that's still very young. We make arguments all the time about sending our 18-year-olds to fight for our country. But now you got an 18-year-old fighting for this country that is still fighting their own personal battle of who they are on the inside and how people see them on the outside. That just doesn't seem like a good decision to me. Now, once you've gone through that transition and you've lived in that fully transitioned lifestyle for about 5 years, I think joining the military should be a no questions asked situation. As long as you can show that you've transitioned and have lived in your transgendered life for 5 years without any incident, any problems, and you can pass the training and all the tests to get in, then at that point, I say, go for it. Join the military. But if it's more important to you, and which obviously it should be, to maintain order on the inside and figure out your foundation, that's the choice you're making in place of joining the military. If joining the military is that important to you and it's something that has called to you since you were a kid, then maybe you should hold off on being in the whole transgender situation until you have, joined the military on the gender that you were born and see how that experience works out for you. And then once you've been in the military for, I don't know, I would say at least 10 years, and you still feel like that's something that definitely needs to be fixed or changed or whatever, that, I guess, is a whole other can of worms that needs a whole other video to discuss. But I'm just saying, for the most part, we all know that transgender is a mental disorder. It is not normal. And when this rewiring happens and people feel like there's somebody that they don't recognize in the mirror, I just don't see how joining the military with the desire to continue with a transition is a good idea. I think these things should be totally separate from each other and revisited later. And if it's just not meant to be for you, it's just not meant to be for you. But I don't think it's the military's place to have to necessarily pay for any kind of transgendered operations. I mean, and I'm just going by insurance companies. I don't know exactly what they cover and what they don't. I know that there needs to be a specific reason in most cases. Like, I can't go out and just get a boob job and my insurance company pay for it. But if I got breast cancer and they had to remove my breast, then my insurance company would absolutely pay for the surgery. So that's where I'm a little confused on how the military would be paying for these procedures. But I just don't think that it's the military's place to have to do that, because I don't think if you're in that mental state, you should be able to join the military. I just don't think those two things run together very good and safe. That's just how I see it. I don't think by saying you can't join now is discriminating when you can say you can join later. I don't think it's discriminatory when you consider it a mental disorder. It could easily be something that you could fail your physical on just because of your mental state. And I don't think that that would be discriminatory. I think that that would be a legit diagnosis that the military says they can't help you with. And until you kind of get that under control yourself, they don't want you to be a soldier. Okay, they need you to figure out who you are as a person first. Then they can build a soldier. But you go in there all half cockeyed and confused and, unbalanced and insecure and unsure. Boot camp is going to do nothing but, I think, make it worse. So do you know anybody who's transgender and joined the military, and what their experience was like? Did they join as publicly transitioning into a different gender, or are they just somebody that you know and you can care less if they join the military or not? Whatever their mental state is, you don't think it should be a deciding factor on if you think they would make good soldiers or not. So that's what I think of the situation. Like I said, I don't think that transgender people shouldn't be able to join the military at all. I think they should just be a little bit more mentally in tune with themselves before throwing themselves into what could potentially be disastrous mentally. I mean, some people go into the military every day thinking they are completely normal and that they can handle anything, and they are the first minds broken, So when you're already dealing with some stuff, I think the best course of action is to just deal with your stuff and not force it upon the military, especially when the military is such a hardcore place to begin with. I mean, you really have to be of strong mind to be a soldier. So if your mind isn't strong, then I don't think you should waste the military's time, to be quite honest. So that's my take on that. Don't know how some of you are going to feel about that. Like I said, I've been such a left-leaning liberal for such a long time that when I do share my thoughts and opinions that don't necessarily run with how I used to be, I'm not really sure how some people are going to take it. So, but again, I'm not hating on anybody. I'm not discriminating against anybody. And I'm certainly not saying anybody has the right to be treated unfairly. But what I am saying, however, is if transgenders are going to join the military, it should be in a smarter way, and maybe when they're older and more sure of themselves. But for now, I think we should leave joining the military to those who at least have some confidence in who they are when they sign the papers. Like I said, I know they break you down anyway, but some people are just not equipped to be broken down the way the military breaks you down. And you better make sure you're ready for that and everything that comes with it. And to protect people from themselves, we make certain rules, laws, and regulations. And I think in this case, to protect certain people from themselves, I would not be against the military having a policy that says only fully transitioned people after a certain amount of years should be able to enlist in the military. So that's my thoughts on that. What do you think? Do you know anybody in the military who has transitioned? Do you know somebody in the military who is considering it but are going through the normal workflow, being the gender they were born with, but are considering maybe changing that up? And what do you feel about that? And what are those people's experience with boot camp? Do they think it's any harder to deal with being transgender, or am I completely off base and this has no bearing whatsoever on the kind of soldier that can be made? So yeah, let me know what you think. Give me a like, a dislike. Leave me a comment in the comments below. Subscribe and hit that little notification bell, because I hear that's the most important thing these days. And until next time, guys, thanks for watching. Bye.